Hey TV fans, Bored now, back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about Yellowjackets Season 1 Episode 4. The episode is called Bear Down. Full spoilers just in case you haven't seen this episode yet, as I continue the build up to Yellowjackets Season 2, which I will be covering on the channel. Just want to take this opportunity to once again thank the Yellowjackets Hive podcast. They joined me for the last episode review of The Dollhouse, so you can find that review and discussion up on my channel now if you want to catch up with it. Also, it will be up on their channel at some point, but thanks for them once again for the team up, and I'm sure we will be collaborating in the future. And I will once again just put their links in the description to this video, so go and check them out if you haven't already. So this episode focuses on Natalie and Travis in particular, their personal history. We really get more of a sense of their relationship in the past, how they start to bond. And we also see some really personal stuff from Natalie's background pre going on the trip, pre the soccer team and the plane crash, and it really paints a strong picture of just why she is so angst ridden and why she is so awkward around people and very rebellious. And the Natalie Travis stuff is really well done. It is the strong point of the episode, and you get some great acting from both the young Natalie but also like the older Natalie. So I'll talk about the stuff in the 90s first, the plane crash stuff, because the team discover some, like a shotgun in the cabin, and it works out a little bit conveniently in a TV sense, and they've got enough ammunition to last them, and they decide to go hunting. They decide to start hunting bears. But this is the stuff I start to really get into when it comes to the past scene with them in the wilderness, because we actually start to get them being quite proactive and thinking of strategy. So, for example, they decide to start doing target practice, and this is something which the coach oversees. So they start shooting at bottles just as a way to, sort of determine who would be best when it comes to hunting bears and food and stuff like that. So we get various success rates, but we start to see a real spark developing between Travis and between Natalie, and it's a real sort of almost competitive spark where it's yeah, I kind of hate you, but yeah, I'm kind of getting a bit turned on by it as well. But it's just where it's a little bit of an edge between them, where they're getting very competitive over the shooting stuff. And at one point, Travis is a real dick to Natalie, he's sort of mocking her shooting abilities and is almost being quite sexist. Now, I think with Travis, you have to cut him some slack a bit because of what happened with his father and the trauma he's been going through, but it was definitely an unnecessarily sexist remark he made. But then Natalie gets her own back and sticks it in his face in the next scene, because she insists on one more try with the shooting, and she actually tops his success rate. But that's where you start to see a spark between the two, where they're sort of swapping insults back and forth. But out of it does come some sexual tension. So Travis storms off in a bit of a huff. But by the end of the episode, Natalie is helping him out. She's helping him recover this heirloom from the wreckage and from his father's finger. So a wedding ring, which was very important to the family. And this is where things get really graphic and dark, with them just trying to get the wedding ring off the finger, and just how tense the whole thing is, and how really gross the stuff is, with the body just dismembered the way it is, and all the flesh, the rotting flesh. But it's a really well done scene, and it's quite a believable scene where you could see this is how they're going to start bonding, and we're going to move on from there. So I would say everything with Natalie in this episode, both in the past and in the present, I like, because in the present she reconnects with Kevin, and this is where Misty's like sort of matchmaking has come to the forefront from the last episode, because there's some nice scenes with Kevin and Natalie in the present in this episode, because I like the stuff about her helping his son out with football, like, because they're at the football like tryouts or like practice, and she's actually giving the son like tips of how to score the goal, like just tactics, like, and then you see it work out. And this is one of the things this show does really well, where it just reverses things from the female perspective, and it sort of reverses the male gaze almost, and how everything at times it seems has to be so male driven. You see how, because Natalie in the past has been a good footballer or soccer player for you in the States, or has that experience, so she actually uses it, but she uses it to help out a young boy, so it's almost like reversing the gender roles a lot in that sense. And she uses it as a way to get quite close to Kevin, and they start going on like casual dates, but she convinces Kevin to help her out to like look into Travis's like autopsy, because of course one of the things that came out of the end of the dollhouse is she doesn't believe then it was suicide. She believes something else is afoot, so she gets Kevin to dig into that. But there's some good scenes with them in the episode. So the really dark stuff with Natalie from the past is that she was in an abusive relationship. Sorry, not abusive, but her father was abusive. She comes from that sort of home. So we see some really tense, uncomfortable stuff with her, where he catches her and Kevin sort of having an intimate moment. We also see later on she goes to try and retrieve, because like adult Nat, we see her trying to retrieve a mixtape which he did for her, which is from that period in time. It's a mixtape he did for her in her teenage years. But yeah, she really comes from a rough home, and her father's just a complete monster. And just literally bullies her. Like, even if he doesn't like what she's doing, he goes about it totally the wrong way. And it's at that point where the episode gets very dark, because there's a gun and there's like an exchange between them. And at one point it looks like Natalie is going to shoot the father, but it doesn't quite play out that way. Like, she loses her nerve. And that's when he starts like mocking her, but then the trigger just goes off and he shoots himself, and it's absolutely devastating for young Natalie. It's a funny thing to say, but in a way it's maybe more devastating than if she did the shooting herself. I can sort of see it from that point of view, but yeah, you can see why she's so traumatized and so has such personality issues moving forward, and certainly in the present. But it definitely paints a strong picture of her character. So it's a good episode for Natalie as a character. Also some nice Misty stuff, like at one point she catches Jessica Roberts in the restaurant, and she confronts her and says, "I'm on to you." In 2021, Taisha continues her political campaign, which of course has caused some rifts and tensions at home and has put her marriage on the rocks, really. So in this episode, she tries to get approval from like a big celebrity, an author around town. And so we see a lot of Taisha at this big flashy like function where she's looking to brown nose this politician. So I think the arc for Taisha in this episode, like the mini arc, is then really this sort of brown nosing isn't really what she does, and it's not really staying true to herself. And like, definitely in life we have to do these things sometimes. Like, we do have to like pay a little bit of lip service to certain people, and sometimes you have to do it to people who you don't particularly like. But that's one of the challenges of Taisha in this episode. And having met this person, like, it's definitely a fist punch moment, I should say, from the audience when Taisha puts her in her place, because she's an awful racist, very like white sort of privilege. Oh, look at the good work I'm doing, rather than just doing it because it's the right thing to do. But so the scenes at this function are really effective, and they also show a little bit once again how Simone, Taisha's partner, is really being put on the back burner, like her needs, and how she's been maybe a bit tossed to the side as a result of Taisha trying to get this political support. Because this all comes about because she believes then the polls for her are starting to slide, and that the attack had from the previous episode a lot of damage, and there's no sign of things turning around. So she believes this is the right tactic. So you just get some amusing scenes at this party with her, like, sort of talking to these various like white celebrities and different people, but like not really being very interested. She really wants to talk to the author / journalist. And as I said, once she talks to her and we meet this woman, it's quickly revealed what a monster she is. So they start off by getting high together, and at first it seems like she's on Taisha's level. Like, she seems like a grounded person who Taisha can just relate to and hang out with. But it soon becomes clear that then it's all a bit of a front, or a bit of an act, because it turns out she wants Taisha's story. She wants to find out what exactly went down all those years ago in the wilderness, and that's her angle. And Taisha's saying, well, if anyone should tell that story, it should be me. It should be my voice telling it, not some like middle-class white woman. So the celebrity responds with, as I said, a really racist and obnoxious remark, basically saying to Taisha, you've got me to thank for putting the black voices out there. Like, you wouldn't be anything without me. And thank God Taisha immediately puts her in her place and just tells her to watch out, like, keep your eyes out, because you don't want to fuck with me is the tone of it and what she's saying. And it's just a brilliant moment because she puts her in her place, but it's also a good character moment for Taisha, because yeah, she does have standards, she does have principles, and also she's a threat. Like, it continues the narrative of maybe there's more to Taisha than meets the eye. Like, maybe she is a threat. Like, maybe there is something truly dark and dangerous about her. That's something to keep tabs on with the ongoing mystery of this show. So I like the stuff at the party, and I particularly like the scene between Taisha and this awful woman. Once again, the weakest stuff in the episode is the Shona stuff, the Shona adult stuff, the stuff with her and Adam as they go on this fling. I know a lot of people like this stuff, so it's this episode where her and Adam start hanging out and they start doing stuff which maybe teenagers would do, and which it's almost like recapturing their youth, but stuff which a younger Shona didn't get to do. So when they get like the teenager to buy them booze and what have you, and it's just a lot of fun, them getting high on the hood of a car, stuff like that. But I don't actually drive with it as much as others, even though I can see why it's in the episode and the point. But I just find it a bit eye-rolly, and that it drags a little, and I'm just not that into the stuff with Adam at this point in the show. But we do get quite a good end scene with Shona, and quite a good end line and cliffhanger, because Misty calls her and informs her about Travis being found dead. And this is literally the first Shona has heard of it, and it's a good way to like incorporate her into the other side of the plot, into like Natalie and Misty's plot. But you also get that really funny end line with Jeff when Shona comes in and he's like, oh, okay, how was book club? So she's continuing the book club thing to try and hide this secret fling she's having and all these other activities. Also, back in the wilderness, we see Shona kill a rabbit on her own as they start to hunt more. So that's a nice little moment just to show then her killing the rabbit and feeding it to her family in the present is old habits dying hard, like she has brought back stuff from the wilderness. And one of the things I like about Shona in the past is how we see her come into her element when they're in the wilderness, and how she actually becomes more effective than Jackie, like some of the hunting skills Shona brings to the group. So it's another good episode. It is just some of the Shona and Adam stuff I'm not so keen on, but I really liked a lot of the stuff with Natalie and her past in this episode. It was powerful stuff, I thought. So that's another review of Yellowjackets for episode 4. Bear down. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, like and subscribe. Share me out on social media. You can support the channel at patreon.com/borednow. I'll be back with more Yellowjacket Season 1 reviews soon, but also I will be covering Season 2. As I said, another show I'm going to be covering that returns this month is Succession. It returns for the 4th and final season. I will be covering that on the channel. Also, for something a bit older and retro, me and Rachel McDonald to Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews. Go figure, a channel called Bored Now will cover that, but we're currently about to do Season 4, the current season of Star Trek Picard, if you have an interest in that. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys again soon.